Hello and welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast, where we invite you to spend just a few minutes with the staff at Cook Library. I'm Daniel Smith, the Genealogy Librarian. I have also been coordinating our new seed library, which I encourage you to check out very soon. We will be open during the whole month of March, as long as supplies last. In this episode, we are exploring the connections between seeds and genealogy. While this may not be the first place you look for information about your ancestors, seeds can reveal a lot about your family history and values. In a way, they are a tiny capsule into the past which can reveal your cultural heritage and culinary history. Let's explore that a little more together. Growing up, my dad had a collection of seeds that he inherited from his mother. This included various vegetables and flowers. As a child, I remember being amazed that he had something that his mother had given him. Sadly, she passed away when I was very young, so I did not have a lot of memories of her. However, these seeds felt like a connection to her. Each year, my dad would plant them in his gardens and flower beds, and we would watch them grow during the season. When the vegetables were ready, we would harvest them. Sometimes we would freeze or can some for later. And when the flowers had finished blooming, we would harvest the seeds for next year. While I did not give a lot of thought about their genealogical value as a child, I can now see how much was passed down through those seeds. In the act of gardening, I learned how to plant, care for, and preserve seeds. I also gained a deeper appreciation for my family's agrarian past, which I could literally see with my own eyes and taste at the dinner table. Perhaps you have had a similar gardening or farming experience growing up. Speaking of farming, did you know that some of the United States censuses were accompanied by an agricultural schedule? In fact, these schedules were included in the 1850, 1860, 1870, and 1880 censuses. These forms asked additional questions that your ancestors may have completed if they were farmers. Their answers can reveal a lot of information about their land and the types of agricultural crops they grew. You can find these freely available online through the National Archives and on Ancestry, which is accessible at the library. I encourage you to look at these schedules to gain a clearer picture of the types of seeds that your ancestors may have planted if they were farmers. If you are unsure about your ancestors, check out a regular United States Census available on Family Search to identify their occupation. This can be a clue that leads you to the agricultural schedules, particularly if they say they are farmers. When I explored the agricultural schedules for some maternal ancestors, I discovered that they owned over 100 acres where they grew potatoes, wheat, rye, and several varieties of corn. For me, this information immediately brought to mind my mother's grandmother's cornbread. I can still taste this delicious, buttery treat, which was served at many family holiday gatherings. Speaking of butter, while reviewing the same agricultural schedule, I learned that my ancestors produce hundreds of pounds of it annually. Perhaps they used some on their cornbread and even sweetened it with a little of the honey or molasses they produced. I also recently discovered that my same great-grandmother collected over 200 cornbread recipes during her lifetime. I wonder how many she tried at those family gatherings. These recipes included some from her ancestors, as well as her husband's ancestors. While I cannot directly attribute the corn that my ancestors grew in the 1860s to my big granny, I do know that cornbread has a deep history in my family and the southeastern United States, and that enriches my family tree. If you are lucky, You may have also had seeds passed down through your family. These are sometimes called heirloom or heritage seeds, and they may have been from ancestors who immigrated long ago. In the next genealogy podcast, we will explore more about immigrants who brought seeds with them when they immigrated to the United States. As you will hear, they were sometimes very crafty about the ways that they brought them to the United States, and their work preserved and sustained generations. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with those who you think would also be interested. One of the best things you can do to support us is to take a moment to leave a rating for this podcast. Those ratings help get this podcast noticed. We'll be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.